Hey everybody, it's Mike at digitalnomad.net. Just want to do a video about marriage, divorce. I've done many of these on my channel, digitalnomad.net, where you're probably watching this. And I want to do this one about a child custody prenup. This is a concept you probably never heard of before, but this is something I've really been putting a lot of thought into recently. I was married, I had kids. I only had kids when I was married, and I got divorced, and all my kids were not 18. So there was child custody involved. And, child custody, as you probably know, is a negotiated item. It's not predetermined. And that's why I'm making this video, because I want to throw the concept out there into the internet, into the matrix about normalizing. You've heard of prenups, normalizing a child custody prenup. And of course, if you want to protect any assets you have, you definitely want a prenup. That's been talked about for decades and decades now. If you don't have any, you don't have anything to worry about, I guess, but you're going to be subject to however the state that you're residing in decides to divide that at the end. But child custody, okay. I mean, with the assets, it's usually no fault divorce, split down the middle, whatever they say is divisible. So that's kind of straightforward. Not always, but pretty much, compared to a human life and who's going to take care of that person. Because, the problem that I see and that necessitates a prenup for child custody is the fact that men usually get the short end of the stick. And, we're living in a time that's so messed up right now, where it's nearly impossible to afford to live, for one thing. And, women have all the advantages of men now, at least people who are younger generations, and are actually doing better than men financially. And still, if you're talking about making things equal, this child custody thing is not equal. I mean, what you find if you start looking around is that, you go from 100% dad when you're married, or even if you're not married. I mean, you don't necessarily have to be married, but whenever a child comes along, it's better in marriage, of course, but even if it's not, you should have some kind of prenup, and ideally a custody prenup, or a pre-child custody document. If you're not getting married, I don't even know how that would go. But I would say, think about this, because you go from 100% dad in most cases to like a 15% dad. That's kind of what you see. And I know I've been through that. I mean, people thought I was a stay-at-home dad, which I was not. I never was. Always produced income. But I went from everyone thinking I'm a stay-at-home dad to thinking my son no longer has a dad. What happened to your dad? Where is he? The other people that come into your spouse's or your former spouse's life after that, or your child's mother's life, they're not necessarily going to fill that role. And even if they say they will, they usually don't. That's been my experience, and myself included. It's just very, very difficult. It's emotional, and it's difficult. So let's normalize the talking about custody prenups, custody agreements, or pre-birth custody agreements, because this is the worst part of divorce, if you ask me, having been through it, and known others that have been through divorce, is this battling of custody. And it always is a battle, because everybody wants their kid as much as possible. So there's no way it's going to turn into anything but that. There's nothing more important than life, especially a life that you created. Nothing even comes close. And yeah, I know money's important, but it's all made up. It's all fake. It's not even real. And of course, look at the runaway inflation as compared with wage growth over time here in the United States, and it's getting to be that way worldwide. It's just something that we're going to need to focus more on what's important. People are hardly even having kids. This is another thing, okay? In the past, people would have 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 kids, okay? And a lot of times people will just let the kids raise themselves. I mean, what could you do? There's only so many hours in the day. Now, it's lucky if you have one, if a household has one. And I'm talking about people that were born and raised U.S. citizens here. The fertility rate of people that have been born here and grown up here is very, very low. It's way below replacement rate. It's only because of people that are immigrating into the U.S. that we're not losing population. And this is going to be true worldwide. So this is going to be more important as time goes on. So just, note this Mike Young video here, digitalnomad.net, in September of 2025. And I'm just throwing a call out there, and share this with if you if you agree with some of this. Give me some comments down below so I can learn about what you feel about this. But this should be way more important than any assets, any financial assets, any fake printed fiat currency. Okay, it should be way more important than that. And when I think about it, I never thought about this until just recently, as the fertility rates drop. Because I guess in the past, you weren't so focused on one individual life. If you had multiple ones, and you didn't have time. But now it's just going to be one. Who's going to get this one? Who's going to get to do stuff? What if somebody wants to move? And that was my case. Somebody wanted to move, and I reluctantly and mistakenly, I'd say, allowed that to happen. And I didn't realize the effect it was going to have. I thought I was doing the right thing. I was avoiding maybe making the battle even worse. But better yet, if I look back on things, would be that a custody agreement was in place before the birth of the child, for sure, but even before the marriage, I'd say, as a prenup. So that's what I think. I think that you're going to be seeing more and more of this, even though you don't see any of it right now. I mean, like I said, I'm probably the only one talking about this. But what would it look like also? I mean, what would it entail in terms of requiring one or another person to remain in a certain geographic area, certain schools? I guess we don't even know the schools, but I'd say it would have to probably take into consideration because let's put it this way, we are in equal times. Unless you want to have a marriage where there's a stay-at-home parent and you know that up front, you can put that in there. But absent of that, and even if it's a stay-at-home parent, my gosh, how do you deal with that? That's complicated. But let's just go assume at one point, since stay-at-home parents don't happen as often these days, that it would be two working parents. And I would say really it would have to agree to 50-50. Knowing what I know now about relationships, about how important it is to set the right example. When I say right example, I don't mean mistakes people make. Everybody makes mistakes. Don't make them if you can avoid it. But I'm talking about long term. The example of a parent, an involved parent, transmitting wisdom to an individual so they can make good choices, not screw their life up nonstop. It's going to be, that time needs to be there. I mean, anyone who wants to parent their child, they need to be able to have that time, and they need to be guaranteed that legal right. And that's what's not happened. It doesn't happen, especially for guys. You're not guaranteed the legal right of anything. And by the way, just so you know from my own experience, even if you reach an agreement, make sure it's a court order, even if it's just negotiated between the two of you, because it was negotiated between the two of us and it wasn't a court order. And I found out that later on that because it wasn't a court order is always the best. It was more easily changed going forward. Now, these custody agreements can always be changed. That's the thing. And that's what you want to say. I say in the prenup, custody prenup, is that this will not be changed. This is a court order, or better than a court order, unchangeable. Unless, I don't know, one of the parents turns out to be a serial killer or something. Obviously, you don't want them parenting, okay? Something like that would have to be incredibly extreme, because anybody who's willing to go into a prenup custody agreement like I'm discussing or describing is going to be a quality person. I'm telling you. It's one thing to say, I value my cash. It's another thing to say, I want to spend as much time with my kid. I don't want to put that in writing. I want you to agree with it, or I'm not having kids with you. Think about that. That's some dedication. All right. And I kind of throw that out there into the universe, into the internet. All future generations. If you care about your kids, which I know you do, but if you really want them to know that you do, and you really want to show it, and you don't want your rights taken away, you don't want somebody else raising your kids without you, which is what ends up happening. If you go from 100% dad to a 15% dad, they're not going to do as good a job as you. You know that. I know that. Don't let that happen. The only way you're going to not let that happen is a prenuptial custody agreement. PCA, prenuptial custody agreement. So we're just putting custody in there. I'm sure a prenuptial custody agreement would also, discuss the finances and things like that. Of course, because you need money to operate in this world. But, just like anything else with money, that's less important. You just need enough to make you happy, and you're never going to be any more happy with any more. So when I say make you happy, I mean, I'm sorry, I misspoke. You need enough to pay your bills. Your bills for a basic lifestyle. After that, you're not going to be any happier. And just remember that. But with the prenup for custody, that's a whole different ballgame. Think about that. You have somebody, you get one chance at raising your child. It should be the most important thing. So let me know your comments down below and pass this video along to somebody else that could benefit. And I hope that this video, it kind of throws out there into the universe, into the matrix, that we're going to have better kids going forward. We're going to have better parents. We're going to have more involved parents, more involved kids, better relationships, and less fighting over custody, because that's what all the real fighting is. Let's be honest, okay? The real fighting is over human lives, not, I mean, unless both parents are poor, and in which case they're not going to be fighting, probably because they don't have any money. I don't wish that on anybody. But anybody who's fighting over money has more than enough, let's be honest. And the kids, the children, raising them, affecting a life, influencing a life positively, raising the best humans you can, because we need help here on earth. That should be the priority. And I look forward to the day when this is standard procedure, that pre-birth, pre-marriage relationship, whatever you want to call it at that point in time, forward from 2025, that it's already been predetermined that the father will get a good relationship with any children that they have going forward during their formative years. Because, you know, anybody who's done this knows that trying to change things after the fact, it's nearly impossible. I mean, I don't like to bring that old saying, and you can't teach an old dog new tricks, but it's applicable. It's so much easier just to get it done right the first time. So get it done right the first time. Get a prenuptial custody agreement.